Hello. I first moved to the city of London early in my adulthood, just like a lot of people move to cities when they're just starting out, because cities offer a lot of opportunities amongst a wide diversity of people. But also, individuals can become lost and feel a particular sense of loneliness when amongst so many people in a metropolis like this. And this has been captured in literature before, like the author Marcus Zusak wrote in his novel, The Book Thief. There were people everywhere on the city street, but the stranger could not have been more alone if it had been empty. And I also think of that great Stephen Sondheim song, Another 100 People from the show Company. Another 100 people just got off on the train. It's a city of strangers. Okay, I'm not going to keep singing. You don't want that. Don't make me sing. But yeah, I think there is this sense of loneliness that can that can arise when you're surrounded by so many people and feel kind of anonymous amongst them. And I've definitely felt it myself at different points while living here, even though I've made many friends and acquaintances over the years. And this sense is captured really complexly and fascinatingly in Christine Dwyer Hickey's new novel, Our London Lives. And it's quite a long book, but I think its length really adds to this sense of how individuals can become so lost amongst a city of so many people. So I want to discuss this book more and why I found it so moving and how I really connected with it. So it's the story of two individuals primarily, of Millie and Pip, and they emigrate from Ireland to live in London in 1979, and they both have complicated pasts and things that they are sort of moving away from and kind of wanting to start out their lives afresh. But they carry a lot of emotional baggage with them, and this slightly hampers them. But they also set up these kind of temporary lives in the city, and they form a connection with each other early on in the late 70s in 1980, and they connect with each other again over the course of a number of decades. And you might think, because of this, that it's a romance novel, and I think on the surface it kind of appears like it's going to be charting this great romance over time, and it does do that partly, but I don't think that's the main point of the book. It more captures in a really beautiful way how these individuals become lost and astray in trying to find their way in this large city and amongst so many other people. And one of the unique ways it does this is in its time structure. And so we primarily follow Millie in the early years in 1979 and 1980 when she first comes to the city and she starts working in a pub, and she meets Pip in this pub, and we follow as she's just starting out and the real problems that she has come to the city with, and that she has to overcome before start continuing on. And then with Pip, we primarily follow him later on in their lives in the year 2017, when Pip's father has just died, and he's dealing with the grief of that and the difficulty of his immediate circumstances. Because he has primarily been a boxer in his life. He's worked in a number of different trades to sort of make ends meet. But yeah, he's been a boxer, and this has had long-term repercussions for him, but also he's reflecting upon his early life at this later stage, and his childhood, and how he survived through a lot of difficulties early on in his life. And so we see the reverberations of this in this closer to the present time, but also how his relationship with Millie has really changed over time, and the different times that they've encountered each other throughout their lives. And so the narrative moves backwards and forwards between these two different periods of time, and we gradually get the picture of how these two individuals have set up sort of temporary lives for themselves in the city, but then these temporary lives that they have created for themselves then become their permanent existence in a way, and the lives that they stick with throughout the majority of their adult years up until this point when we meet them in 2017 again. And so it's really fascinating how the author charts the path and movements of their lives in this way. And so I enjoyed following how the emotional development of these characters over time in this way, and how, in a sense, they eventually become kind of ghosts to their own lives. And I think anyone who's been in a city and witnessed how the city is growing and changing over time, and cities grow and change much more dramatically, I think, than sort of towns or more rural areas, and the landmarks and the cityscape and the people, it really changes much more dramatically over a shorter period of time. And I think we witness that through the lives of these two characters, how they witness how the city is transforming around them, but in some senses they stay the same because they have this emotional baggage from the past. Each of them have children who they are estranged from, and there are different reasons for this, which we gradually learn over the course of the novel. And we learn how they met up with each other at different points, but never quite achieved the kind of romance that might have been fulfilling for them, or it might not have. But they both come to dwell in and yes, almost like haunt these areas of London, which they initially inhabited when they first came to the city, and these places that they first started out in have since become very dilapidated. They're probably going to be torn down and redeveloped, and but they still continue to dwell there or visit these locations, and it has this really chilling effect, because it's in a sense their lives haven't quite achieved the things that they were hoping to achieve. And I think it shows how a city can grow and transform and change over time and develop, and that is kind of seen as progress. But there are many individuals who fall by the wayside and who get lost on the sort of periphery of all these larger developments in a city. And I think that is what this novel captures so powerfully, and also as a depiction of the city of London. Since I live here, and over the past 20-something years, I have witnessed a lot of transformations to the city myself over time. So I really connected with this sense of walking by an area and saying like, oh, I had a significant encounter there once, but now the actual like building or the landscape of this area has really dramatically changed over time. And so I too have like felt like, oh, I'm kind of like haunting my own past in this way, where I'm remembering how the actual city and the street and the encounters I had in this location in the past, and how that is kind of overlaid with the present and the reality of what it is now. And so I think this adds to a really, big amount of literature that captures the city of London in such a beautiful way, like going all the way back to Charles Dickens and Virginia Woolf, but also with more contemporary writers with like Monica Ali's Brick Lane, and Caleb Azuma Nelson's Open Water, and Zadie Smith's fiction, and also more recently My Friends, the great novel that came out earlier this year and was one of my favorite books that I read this year, and so I really appreciated how we witness them naturally as they are traveling through the city and living in the city. You can follow the paths that they travel down different streets and different areas of the city, but also how their movement through the city intersects with different historical moments in the city. So, like in the more present time, where the character encounters the Grenfell Tower disaster, and when a tower block of flats burnt down and led to the death of many people, and it was a horrific tragedy, and so they meet up with different moments that are occurring in the city, and it really captures the momentum of what is happening in the present time as they are living in it, but also how their memories and their own experience of these areas of the city are kind of laid out over the landscape that they are experiencing, and there's also a wonderful moment when they go to they pass by the street where J.M. Barrie lived, and are sort of thinking about the creation of Peter Pan, and so there's these intersections with the literary past of the city as well, and also the character of Pip. He's a great lover of literature, and he memorized T.S. Eliot's poem The Wasteland, and this extended poem comes to connect with the poignancy of these characters' stories in looking at issues to do with alienation and death, and I think that's really like powerfully conveyed in the novel as well. So at different times, Pip will, because he's memorized the poem, he'll be like reciting it and thinking about these different lines, and this kind of connects with his own life, and so I found that all very powerful, and because it is written in this way where it moves backwards and forwards in time, we can really see how the past has impacted the present, and is still with these characters who feel like they had such like a promising start, and wanted to and really wanted to create a whole life for themselves, but get caught up in these kind of transitionary stages, which then become their permanent lives, and I think this happens for so many of us, whether we live in a city or not, and so I think it is just an absolutely beautiful novel that I really enjoyed reading, and that I thought was really powerful, and also this UK edition is really gorgeous, and the inside of it as well is really beautiful. I really love that. It's kind of like the tiles of a doorstop, but then it also shows pictures of different London scenes. And so Christine Dwyer Hickey, she's a really talented Irish author, and I've only read one other novel of hers, but also the themes of that previous novel I think really connect with this book as well, because that previous book is The Narrow Land, which is about the life of the artist Edward Hopper, and his wife, who was also an artist, and the sense of competitiveness between them, where Edward Hopper was obviously a very successful artist and painter, and but his wife was somewhat more obscure, and she was a much more difficult person. And it's about how they're living in a house, and how they connect with a neighbor boy who's temporarily living nearby, and how they really connect with him. But it feels very appropriate to discuss Edward Hopper in the context of this novel, because Edward Hopper obviously is the great painter of a sense of alienation and loneliness amongst other people, in especially in a cityscape, because so many of his paintings depict individuals kind of looking out or being lost in thought amongst a big city, or amongst other people, and so I think the author captures something really poignant about this experience, and does it in a way that is so artful and delicate and meaningful. And so yeah, I loved reading this novel, and I'd highly recommend it. So I'd love to hear if you have read this book yourself and what you think of it, or if you've read any other work by Christine Dwyer Hickey and want to discuss it with me, or if you're interested in reading it now, please let me know about that in the comments below. But I hope you're doing well and reading good things, and I will speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.